Welcome everyone, just a killer Van Halen song off the first album. Got my EVH guitar, had to figure out a Van Halen song. So I chose this one. This is tuned to E flat as you would expect, but it's actually about 4/10 shy of being in tune. So it's E flat, a little flatter. Makes sense. I just load the song up in Riff station, which I have a link below. You can download it, load the song in. Lots of videos on Google on how to use it. Not speed, I should say. Well, there is a speed control, but there is a pitch control, which you can, in this case, I lowered it, and when I got to 4/10, it sounded in tune. So with that said, I got everything figured out, all the notes, so we'll get into the lesson next. As you guys know, I work on my tone just as much as I do my lesson. And I had a hell of a time getting my MXR carbon copy delay to do the correct delay. And then I found this video by Pete Thorne who explained he used an analog delay, an Echoplex, and he showed that Echoplex pedal and how it worked, and that was it. Boom, I bought one used off of eBay, and that is the tone. So I'll put a link to that video also below. Also, my notes will be below for you to download. You'll find as I wrote my notes out, I color-coded each phrase that he does where he changes it. All right, the first phrase, you can consider it basically one interval. He's going to come to a D and come to an F sharp while hitting single notes. So that would be like the single interval. Okay. The next one he does are just all notes. So that's in blue. The first one's in red, the second one's in blue, and I have a key code there. And then the last one, which I just did in normal black, is all major and minor intervals. So I use those kind of intervals. So it'll be actually, I call them double stops, mini chords. So I'll go over each one of those. In this intro, he does all three. Okay, so the riff starts out on the 6th string. We're going to hit 3 to 4. And then slide into 5 on the 5th string. Then we'll hit a muted 6th string, and then the 5th fret, muted 6th string, then the 4th fret. After the 4, we hit the 6th string muted twice, open. We're going to slide 3 and 4 up to 4 and 5. All right, so I'm going to take it to that point. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, now we're going to continue on. We're going to hit that open 6th string muted to the 4th fret, then the 2nd fret. So we got a muted note between each, except the first 4 is twice. It's really a rhythm thing. So let's take the whole first lick together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we start over. This time it's going to be all single notes. Alright, so see the difference? We didn't slide into that interval. All we did was slid into the 5th fret, come back to 4, and then 2. So one more time together slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, the next time we're going to do these intervals. I'm going to do it once and show you. And we continue on. So the intervals, we're going to start out just like we did on 3 and 4, sliding into 4 and 5. What we're going to do is slide into the 5th string at 9 and the 4th string at 8. Then we're going to hit that, again, there's that muted 6th string between. Then we go back to 5 and 4. Then we move to 2 on the 4th string and 4 on the 5th string. This is a minor 3rd. Alright, now we'll slide back into 4 and 5. So we're going to hit 2. Back to 2 and 4. And then 2, like an E power chord, using just the 4th and 5th string. And then we start again. So slowly, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So that full interval will go through twice. And then we're into the verse. So now we're into the verse. I'm going to speak to, again, we talked to tuning wise. This is, again, tuned to E flat and then about 4 degrees flatter from there. But the other thing is Eddie tended to flatten his B string even a little bit more. So he wanted it to ring properly with the G string. You didn't want the dissonance that you kind of get when they're properly tuned. So again, your E or the B string just evens more slightly out of tune. All right, so with that said, for the verse, we're going to start it just like we started the song, 3, 4 on the 6th string to an A, then a little chuck note on the 5th string, and then we're going to add this suspended. This is really a D over A with an F sharp in the bass, but I'm just going to call it A suspended, okay? So we hit that, and then we come back and do the same thing again. Then we come in, now for the next 2 measures of the verse, he's going to go into the single interval that he does. So we're going to do notes up until sliding into 5 and 4. So you get the idea there, okay? So now we're into another set of the A and A suspended. Then we're going into, this is really leading up to the pre-chorus. So again, we're going to single notes, sound like this. Alright, at that point we stop. So after the 2 intervals, full lick, we're going to go into this. I'm calling it the pre-chorus because it really comes in and speaks well to calling it a pre-chorus. So for this pre-chorus, we kind of go into, I'll call it a false chorus. They kind of sing through it once and Eddie does a lick at the end of this, and then they're into the next verse. But when we go into a full-blown chorus, again, this will be what they play. So I'll play it for you and I'll show you what we're doing. Alright, so what we're doing there is we're going to hit our 3-4 as usual, 6th string, palm muted. Then we're going to go to the 3rd fret for a C chord, and then we're going to add on, don't just suspend it at the 5th I'm sorry, 6th fret. We want to go up to 7. So there's a little stretch there. So we hit 3, 4, palm muted, and then we come to a C power chord. Then we're going to add the 7th fret of the 2nd string, hit that twice, back off to 5 on the 2nd. Alright, one more time each, 5 and 7. And then he cuts it short and goes up to an F sharp. 3 palm muted hits, and then down to a B. Alright, at that point when he hits the B, you can take your middle finger, slide it down the strings all the way, and then follow it with your first finger up to the octave at 14. Alright, so we have this. Okay, so make sure I got that on camera. That's a really cool little trick. I mean, who thought of that stuff? I mean, the guy was fantastic. All right, so let's do the full pre-chorus together. I'll do it at a medium tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4. Into one time through the lick with single notes. So, alright, we've done this. And then he comes in with the first lick that you hear. Alright, we'll go over that next. Okay, for this lick, the first lick that you hear, it's obviously Eddie playing extremely fast and with a lot of feeling. He's just going for it. I'll teach you again the lick, and I want to talk about a little nuance at the end that I think some people just are so happy they can play it don't even speak about. So we'll go all through it, and I'll play it at my full speed. Alright, so what I'm doing there for me is I'm hybrid picking. But what Ed is doing, he's hitting the 3rd string at 11, bent up, catching 9 on the 1st string to 9 on the 2nd. Kind of a reverse Chuck Berry. At that point, pulling off 12 to 9. Berry. 3 times. The 3rd time, what he's going to do is bend that 3rd string up at 11, catch 9 on the 2nd string, and then walk down back on the 3rd string from 12, 11, 10, and then the thing nobody talks about is when he hits 9, he hits it and there's a bend and a release. It's not just like, oh, I did it and I'm back into the lick. I mean, he just plays it so damn well. So the last measure of that lick, and then we go back into the rhythm, all right? So what I'm doing, let me get out here. I'm using hybrid picking. So I'm gonna use my ring finger on the 1st string. So I can almost just go down and pick the 2nd string down. That's as fast as I can do. But again, whatever works for you. I even saw a guy teaching it because I researched my lessons, just saying just hit the notes. No. Eddie wasn't that sloppy. So there's some ideas for you. I got this written out. Okay, next we're into verse 2. Next verse is a bit different. I'm going to go through it for you and then we'll talk about what Eddie does different. This first measure of this verse is consistent throughout the song from here on. Alright, so at that point, we continue on with the lick. But to start the verse, we do our 3/4 muted 6th string to an A power chord, or an A chord. Then we're going to add that suspended. Then what we want to do is go up on the 2nd and 4th string at 5. Alright, we're going to hit those 2 notes and slide them back to 3 and 4. And then hit an A. So we have this so far. Alright, at that point he goes off a little bit and he's kind of matching the rhythm of the verse. So we're going to slide into the 4th fret of the 5th string, hit the 2nd fret of the 4th to 4th fret of the 4th string, and then right into this A suspended. And right off of that, there's really not a pause. We're going to slide up to 6 on that 4th string, and then hit a muted 5th string, and then 4 and slide back to 2 on that 4th string. Alright, so we have this all together slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you're into what is basically the red or 1 interval and then a full interval lick. Alright, then we're into another verse, same way. Alright, and then we're going to do 2 of the single intervals, alright, and we're into a pre-chorus. So it'll sound like this. Okay, so again, we're doing this pre-chorus, and now we're going to go into really, after the 2nd verse, what's the actual chorus. Chorus, I'm going to go through it twice, and it really goes through 4 times, but I'll show you what he's doing. Alright, so we start out on an E power chord. We're just going to hit the 9 and 7 on the 5 and 4. And then we hit our muted 6th string. Then we're going to go to, on the 5th string at the 4th fret, and keeping our pinky or your middle finger, whichever works. I kind of worked on my middle or my pinky for this. I see a lot of people using their pinky for chords. And it seemed a little bit easier in this song, so it was a good practice. But okay, so we're going from 4 on that 5th string to 5 with a hit in between. So we have this so far. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to do 2 hits, back to 5 and 7. Then 4 and 7, 1 hit on the 6th string, and then slide 5 and 7 up to 7 and 9, so D to E. Alright, so let me do the whole thing slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Repeat 2 more times. what we do after the first chorus, we're into the third verse. So the third verse is just like the second. We're going to do a single note version of it and come into a second single note and stop on the 4 after the double hits. So alright, then Eddie does that lick. So basically we're going to the 9th fret of the 3rd string, bending it up, releasing, bending it up and releasing with some vibrato, and finally sliding off. Alright, so you know the lick, and then we're into another. Alright, then we're into another section of the verse. This section of the verse is 2 measures of the single notes, the blue. Alright, so then we go into our pre-chorus, which I just did. Now, there is a video out there of the master tapes of this song. So, well, I'll put a link to it because it helped me tremendously. Eddie, the recording does those licks. They must be overdubbed because when you hear the master tape, the last 2 times Eddie just holds that B. But either way, it sounds great, all right? And then we're into chorus 2. Chorus 2 will repeat 4 times again before we go into the solo rhythm, which nobody teaches. So I figured that out, and we'll go over that along with chorus 2 next. All right, so chorus 2 will go through 4 times. I'm going to play that, and then I'm going to go through the solo rhythm, and we'll talk about that. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4. To the outro. So, wow, yeah, it's really a cool rhythm. I mean, you know, if you're like me and can't quite keep up with Eddie, this solo rhythm is just as fun to play. So, all right, so the solo rhythm starts out with a 3/4 A, palm muted 5th, back to A suspended, and then we're gonna go 3/4 on the 6th string to double intervals. Okay, so it'll sound like this. Then back to an A sus2. Now what we want to do after that A sus2 is take the 4th string, hit 2, and then open, and then 2 to the 4th fret for a C sharp minor. Alright, so we're going to hold that C sharp minor, and then we hit it and slide down, just power chords, from C sharp to C and then to B. then we go to A, all right? After that A, we're going to hit a palm muted fifth, add our suspended palm muted fifth, back to an A, double palm mute, all right? So we'll have this. And then start over again, 2 to suspended, back to 2. That next double hit on the 5 muted gives you time to come up to 7. So what we're going to do at the 7th fret is just add our pinky up to 11 from the 9th on the 4th string. So you could hear I hit once, this, then 2 hits, muted. And then we're back to, after that 9, we're back to the 3rd fret. This is when Eddie comes in with the legato, but we're following him with the C to D chords. And then coming back to B. And then our little really cool lick. And then they go into the a cappella part. So there's no singing, they do that for a full measure. When they come out of it, I'm just calling this the outro. It's basically a full chorus, 4 times through. And then we go into, Eddie switches from the chorus chords to the lick. The first time through, he does it in red, which is our double, our single interval from 3 and 4 to 4 and 5 with notes in between, to the second time through, which is ending the song, to all intervals. All right, so let's go through. I'm going to go through the last measure of the outro into how they end the song. All right, so we've done this 2 times through. Here's the 3rd time. Alright, so the endings were simple. 3-4 on the 6th string to an E chord, power chord end. Alright, so that is all the rhythm. It's all written out for you. It's color coded to help you. And we'll go over the solos next. Okay, first measure of the solos sound like this. What we're doing there is we're going to start out with the 14th fret of the 3rd string, bent up, released, and pulled off to 12. Then we're going to bend up 14, catch 12 on the 2nd string. Then the next 2 times we'll bend up 14 on that 3rd string, catching 15. Next time we'll do a Chuck Berry, 14 on the 3rd string, bend up to 12 on the 2nd, 12 on the 1st. To 15, bend up on the 2nd string, to 12 on the 1st, to 12 on the 2nd, with a pull off from 15 to 12. Alright, so up to that point we have this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we come to 15 on the 3rd, back to 12 on the 2nd, and then walk down 15, 14, 12. It's a real, that is a blues note added to this pentatonic scale. Real common that Eddie does this, even in this solo. All right, so the whole first measure together. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, from there we're going to move up to the 20th, well basically the 17th position, all right? We're going to start out on the second string at 20, bent up. Alright, so what we're doing there, the next lick, again, we're in the 17th position. We're going to bend 20 on the second string up, catch 17 to 18, and we'll do that 3 times with the 17 to 18. Then we take 20 and bend it a full 2 steps up. And then we hit 17, hammered on to 20, pulled off to 17. Alright, now we're going to move back to the 11th position. You'll hear as he's moving from that big bend and the hammer off an open B string. So I included the open B string as kind of the lead into it. Alright, so what we're doing there. Okay, so with that open B string, then we're going to pull off on the second string from 12 to 11, and then come up to the third string, pull off 14, 12, 11, end up on 14 on the fourth string. Then we come down to the third string again, pull off 12 to 11, back to 14, so it's like we've come to 14 twice. Alright, so to that point, then we come back to 11, then we switch, we kind of go 12 to 14 before we come back to 11, hammered on to 12, back to 11. Ending on 14 on the 5th string. Alright, so all the way up to that point. Back to 11 on the 4th, back to 12, 14 on the 5th, then we're going to come back to 11 on the 5th, hammer on to 12, back off to 11, to 14 on the 6th string, and then we go 11, 12, and then slide into 14 with a slight bend, and then slide up and off. It's just really kludgy what he kind of does at the end, but that's the best I could figure out from slowing down everything. So again, everything all together. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the next lick, this would be the third measure in the solo, sound like this. I'm not playing it at speed because it's incredible how fast Eddie plays it. We're back at the 9th position. Alright, so what we're doing there, so we're bending 11 on that third string up, catching 9 on the first string, 12 pulled off to 9 on the second. We'll do that twice. Then we bend up 11, catch 9 on the first, and then 12 bend up, back to 9 on the first. Then we pull off 12 to 9 on the second string, back to 12 on the third and 9 on the second. Then we go 12, 11, back to the first string at 9, second string 12 to 9 pulled off, catching 12 on the third. And then 12 pulled off on 11 on the third string to 9 with a little vibrato. I mean, this is incredibly fast, you guys. So those are the notes. Practice them, build them up to speed. Use Riff Station, slow it down, and increase your speed as you get it. So this fifth measure has some tremolo picking and then a really 22 bend up at the end, and we'll go through that. So what we're doing there is bending the 15th fret of the second string up while we hit 12. Then we start tremolo picking, very quickly picking 12, 14, 15, 17, 19, 22, then we bend 22 up. Alright, and from there we're back to the 12th position for the 6th measure. Alright everyone, for the 6th measure, this is basically the last measure before we do the arpeggios that follow the chords in the end of the solo. We're going to hit the 12th fret of the second string to 12 on the first to 15 bend up a little bit higher than a normal bend. Now we come back to 12 on the first string, back to 12 on the second to 15. Then we pre-bend it, hit it, pull it off unbent, catch 15 on the third string back to 12, and then 15 pulled off to 14 on the third. Then we go to the second string, 15 pulled off to 12, back to 15 on the third, and 12 on the second. 15 to 14 on the third, 15 to 12 on the second, 15 on the third string, and then catch 12 on the second, back to 12, do a slight bend, and catch 14 on the fourth. So, you know, again, this is extremely fast, and Edward's playing it with feeling, so I'm giving you the tools. You got this written out, you can work on it and work up the speed, but we'll go through it slowly. This is the second to last measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, now to end the solo, we're going to do this legato lick. So we're going to play a note, second string, 6th fret, bent up, and then 6 unbent to 5 on the second, third, and fourth. Then we just move that whole thing up a full step, start at 8, and then they finish the song. So that is all of the solo. I really hope this helps everybody. Again, I'm not a speed demon. Never have been. Tried for years, but failed famously. So I hope that helps everybody because I worked out all those notes. So enjoy.